63 yards into the south end zone, and just like that, the true freshman electrifies Rice Eccles Stadium. 3 pass catchers on the right-hand side, 1 on the left. Miller in the backfield, 3rd down and 7. Buffs are 1 out of 2 on 3rd down. Crowd gets loud. Salter to pass. Pressure off the edge. He's running away from it. He's going to go down. He goes down. Trey Reynolds got him off the edge. First sack of the year for Reynolds. And the Utah defense comes up with a big stop. So 4th down and 7. Punt team comes out. Ryan Phillips there. Farrakhan at his own 30-yard line to return this kick. Another low snap. Now they're going to fake it. They pop it into the flat 30, 35-40, 45-50, and down to the Colorado 47 to Dallin Bentley. Scott Mitchell called for the fake last time, and he got it that time. Brings on the right-hand side on 1st and 10 for the 42. Ficklin with Wayshawn Parker. He hands it to Parker, who tries the right side, second level 50, 45-40. He's in the open field 30, 25-20, 15, 10-5. Touchdown, house call, Wayshawn Parker. Salter to pass, taking a shot down the field. Intercepted. Teo Johnson playing center field. Came over and picked it off at the Utah 35. What a great read by Teo Johnson. Had the quarterback's eyes the whole way and grabbed it before the receiver for an interception. 1 for 5 on 3rd down so far today. Not a great deal of success. In 3rd long here, Michael Welch will be the tailback. Receiver in the right slot, tight end in the left slot. 2 receivers split wide left and right. Utah's going to show pressure here on Salter. 3rd down and 10. Here we go. Backpedals to pass. Salter from his own end zone. Throwing it long. And incomplete. Nobody in the neighborhood. That's going to be grounding.
That's got to be grounding.
And that's going to be in the end zone, and that's going to be a safety. There was nobody on that far side of the field. That will be grounding, a safety, and Utah's defense in the north end zone will get credit for it.
Intentional grounding. Offense. Number 3. The penalty happened in the end zone results in a safety.
Gray motions out. Ficklin looking to throw. Down the sideline, wheel route 5, 4, 3, and out of bounds. No, into the end zone, touchdown! J.J. Buchanan, he walked the tightrope and stayed in bounds. A 22-yard touchdown from Bird Ficklin. Taulonga again, Rogers behind him, Ficklin under center. Colorado crowds the line, Rogers right side, bouncing end zone, touchdown. Zakari Rogers finds the end zone for the 7th time this season. And this Bird Ficklin-led offense by Utah is absolutely rolling over the Buffaloes tonight. 3rd down and 10, Colorado from their own 25. Salter in the gun. He'll pass. Press rush coming. Salter flushed again. Throwing, chasing. Down he goes! At the 5-yard line, he'll be sacked. Jonnu Hall got him. That's a loss of 20 yards on the sack. Clock running at 2:20 to play. 2nd down and 9 at the 20-yard line. Ficklin again brings Dallin Bentley in motion this time, and he's going to drop the pass. He's firing down toward the end zone. Up caught, touchdown. Larry Simmons beat the defensive back-to-the-back pylon. Another outstanding throw by Ficklin. And Simmons with his 3rd touchdown of the year, his 2nd in as many weeks. And Utah is just battering the Buffs right now here on homecoming. Carvalho's going to get another chance to return here. He'll stand at his own 40. A little breeze in the face of Graves, the punter, who was just out here like a minute ago. Is Utah going to come after it? They are. Penalty is blocked! It's blocked! Jackson Benny got it off the edge, and Utah's got it 1st and goal at the Colorado 7. Benny with yet another big special teams play for Utah. Here they go, Salter under center, pushes the pile. Does he get the 1st down? Official on the far side says he does. I think they'll move him. Let's see, we'll wait. Utah saying no, and so are the officials. They're going to say Salter didn't get there.
Ruler on the field, the runner was short of the line of game. 1st down, Utah.
Dylan Curtis tonight 2 for 2 on field goal attempts. This one's going to be a 45-yard attempt from the left hash. Colorado's lined up to come after this one. High snap, kick is away. It's high, it's end over end, and it is good. Dylan Curtis, welcome back. 3 for 3 tonight. Lead out to 46-0 now with 1:42 to play here in the third quarter. Isaac Wilson lined up wide. Wayshawn Parker takes a direct snap, and he's out the gate. Look out. Wayshawn Parker to the outside 30, 35, 40, 45, 50, 45, and out of bounds at the Colorado 40-yard line. Second down and goal at the 1-yard line. Stop again. Miller and Michael are the tailbacks. See if they push him this time. Stop under center again. This time he lunges, and he's in for a touchdown. Second effort from Ryan Staub gets him in. And there will be no shutout tonight on homecoming. The Buffs prevent that with a touchdown right there against Utah's backups. Johnson, the Wildcat quarterback. Wilson comes in motion. Nate Johnson into the open field. There he goes. 30, 20, 10-5, touchdown. It's a house call for Nate Johnson. He was untouched the entire way. Into the end zone he goes. And that will be the capper tonight on homecoming. One more snap for Utah is all it's going to take. They'll assume the victory position here. At the Colorado 44, Isaac Wilson gets under center. Takes the snap, takes the knee, and that'll do it. As complete a victory in a conference game as Utah has had in a number of years. From start to finish, offense, defense, special teams, it all worked tonight for Utah. And it is a great night to be a Ute on homecoming here at Rice Eccles Stadium as they take down Colorado by a final score of 53-7.
53-7, and I don't know if it was really that close. It felt like it was going to be uglier there in Rice Eccles Stadium as Utah gets to 6-2. The Buffaloes fall to 3-5, and Bert Ficklin goes 10 of 22, 140 yards, 2 touchdowns through the air, a touchdown on the ground, plus 151 with his legs. Really impressive there. We'll talk about Bert Ficklin and more as the Utes get the win and turn ahead to Cincinnati. The number 17 ranked Bearcats are in Salt Lake City as the college football world descends upon Salt Lake City. The college game day fellas are in town, but this is Utes game day.
That's right.
A tradition we have every Saturday in Salt Lake City. It is I, Porter Larson, that guy, Trevor Reilly, our guy Darrell Mack sitting in with us, James Peterson running the program from behind the glass. We are brought to you today by our friends at Outlaw Distillery, the official spirits provider for our ESPN 700 VIP tailgates at each home game. They have great drinks like their honey bourbon, the vodka, the spiced rum, the coffee rum, and their new 133 proof, barrel proof bourbon. Get a taste at their VIP tailgate. Up on campus, if you stop at Sound Warehouse throughout the week, those highlights, of course, brought to you by Sound Warehouse, they'll give you passes to our VIP tailgate where you can try Outlaw Distillery there, at Big Willie's, and, of course, at Outlaw Distillery on site. You can take a tour of their whole facility and try all their stuff there at Outlaw Distillery and outlawdistillery.com. All right, Trevor, 53-7, and like I said, for a lot of the game, it didn't feel like it was even that close. And I know I don't want to be disrespectful in saying that, but the halftime yardage disparity, it really did feel like that was the case. What was going on with the Buffaloes last week? Because that's a team that we've seen be a lot better than that this year.
It looked like they just weren't into the game.
It really did,
It looked like a flat coming out, right? Didn't look flat. They looked a little
coming
flat.
off a bye too.
Yeah.
A
little lethargic. The first 2 plays, it was over. 75 yards in 2 plays, and it was just a pushover. And to your point, by the end of the first quarter, everyone in the stadium said, well, that's pretty much wrapped up.
Right.
It felt like we were playing Cal Poly or something. And what I bring you today? I brought you something.
You brought me some buffalo.
I brought you some buffalo meat, right?
You did.
My man killed a buffalo. And
I'm going to grill it up tomorrow.
It's apropos because it was a slaughter, right? And I wish the Buffaloes all the best the rest of the year. But the Utes looked like a team that Vegas is now getting behind. We got a 2.2 score spread here. And they look like a team that has options at quarterback. And that's always a good thing, Porter.
I don't think they have a quarterback controversy, but there's a quarterback conversation. And for Utah, that's good because the last few years, the quarterback conversation is Cam playing?
No, I hear you, man. And
Is Cam playing?
it's so
And
true.
if he's not, you got nothing, right? Respect to the freshman Wilson who stepped up last year and tried. It just wasn't working. He wasn't ready, frankly, to run an Andy Ludwig offense. So,
And Andy had been let go, so he was on his second iteration of that as a freshman, and his knees a little banged up, all that stuff.
well, and to learn Andy Ludwig's offense, not really a true freshman type of deal. To be clear, you're a guy who's studied that offense. You're a guy who has worked with Andy Ludwig. That's something you might need a little time to figure out. It's not as plug and play as a lot of offenses around college football, right?
There's no doubt. And this offense we're running now with Mr. Beck, it has its moments where it's unstoppable. Okay, it seems like it's one of those game plans where if it's going, there ain't no stopping it. And so what we got to make sure we do is continue to get, I say stay ahead of the chains, right? If we're going to run the ball like we've been running, and if we're really going to commit to this run, I if you're the head coach, who you play, right? If Four is healthy, he's the guy.
Yeah.
But if he's a little bit banged up, right, and you can continue to run teams out of the stadium, this guy Ficklen's not a bad option. That's why I said we got options depending on what we got going on.
And I think that's probably the biggest thing we learned last week is that Utah has some depth at quarterback. Now, it may not be a guy that's going to stand in the pocket and throw for 350 yards. It's something that doesn't really fit with this offense anyway. So we're gonna talk about that in totality, what we learned last week against Colorado in the 53-7 win, and then we'll turn our attention to Cincinnati, the 17th ranked Bearcats. Even though they're coming in here underdogs according to Vegas, we're gonna get to the lines. We're gonna get to the reasons for that 10.5 point favorite for the Utes. And all of the above. You'll hear from Kyle Whittingham a little bit later, his weekly press conference. You'll hear Coordinator's Corner with Sean O'Connell. This week he had Morgan Scalley. So ahead of a kickoff against a really good Cincinnati offense and a kid who I think will be playing on Sundays at quarterback. You're gonna see what Morgan Scalley has to say. A Big 12 availability report. We'll give you the latest there before Bill Riley will give you the final game day availability report 90 minutes ahead of kickoff. We'll give you our predictions and our keys to the game before we set you loose. Porter Larsen, Trevor Reilly. You're going to hear from Darrell Mack as well on the Utes Game Day pregame show up until about 6:15, where we hand it over to Bill Riley, Scott Mitchell, Stevenson Sylvester. They are live from campus at the University of Utah. It's number 17, Cincinnati. Number 24, Utah comes your way in just a couple of hours right here on your home of the Utes. It's ESPN 700, 92.1 FM.
This is head coach Kyle Whittingham, and you're listening to Utah football on your home of the Utes, ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM.
Hey, head coach Kyle Whittingham bringing us back in, the head ball coach, who tied Bob Nyland on the all-time coaching wins list last week. Pretty impressive stuff there from Kyle Whittingham, one of the leading active FBS head coaches as far as the wins go. You're going to hear from Kyle Whittingham, his weekly press conference on the other side, brought to you by our friends at Sound Warehouse. Of course, you can hear the Kyle Whittingham Coaches Show each and every week here on ESPN 700. That comes your way Tuesdays at 6 p.m. And then, of course, in podcast form whenever you happen to listen, ESPN700sports.com. We talked about it in the last segment. We're going to talk about it a little bit more. 53-7, the win for Utah last week. Trevor, like we said, I think it was a little uncharacteristic. I shouldn't say uncharacteristic of Colorado. I don't know that they've been good for long enough that they're like benefit of the doubt, a tough out every week. But it just, the way that they went down to Utah and the way that Utah kind of put their foot on their throat for all intents and purposes, that impressed me. That showed a little bit more to me about Utah and potentially what they could do in this Big 12 title race than, maybe we thought going in. What did you learn Saturday outside of just that, maybe Utah is a contender here?
I would say we were a running team, right? It was up in the air a little bit for me because I was hoping and praying that we could become a balanced attack. But this is a team that I think we can run the ball on anybody. And so I think that mentality needs to be what I learned. I learned that needs to be the focal point for the whole team. We're gonna have to be bullies, fighters. We're gonna have to grind it out for every yard. And I'm excited kind of about our prospects. I was looking at the preseason all conference thing. I think we only had 2 guys on the whole preseason all conference list, the 2 tackles. And so those are our meat and potatoes, right? I like the fact that we're kind of leading into this run game. The OC said a few weeks ago, we may not be a team that throws the ball down the field. I didn't like hearing that because in tight games, right, that's hard. And we saw that against BYU.
Sometimes you need it.
But if you're going to lean into this attack, right, and you got the beef for it, I learned that we possibly can be them. We can be him, if you know what I'm saying. We can be them. We're just going to do what we want, get out of the way.
422 yards on the ground last week is top 10 all time for Utah as a program. It's the most they've had in several years. I think back that Stanford game where they just ran all over the Cardinal was the most since then. Bert Ficklin, 150 yards on the ground. Wayshawn Parker had 145 on the ground. Nate Johnson scored. Nakari Rogers scored. You've seen Daniel Bray kind of start to burgeon on the scene a little bit. He brings a different aspect to the backfield, but that's maybe my favorite part about this. We'll get your thoughts, Darrell. This is a team that they can't only run the ball. They can run the ball with their quarterback, with their change of pace quarterback. They've got 2 guys in the backfield now at the running back position, at the tailback spot. And then they've got Daniel Bray, who is kind of jumped on the scene as this change of pace guy. Oh, and remember early season, Smith Snowden and others were taking snaps as well. You just wish you had Hunter Andrews, who was being a really good weapon early on. How do you feel, Darrell, about the amount of weapons that Utah has kind of amassed now that we're midseason?
It's pretty good. We got like you said, we got Bry and those guys just being in third and short or something. We'll be able to convert. We got a lot of weapons back there, so it'll be good to see all those guys get together and get this ball down the field and stuff.
Trevor, from a linebacker perspective, when it feels like you kind of have an extra hat in because your quarterback can always run the ball. You've got so many blockers. Utah has, I think, quadrupled any other team in college football with like the snaps with an extra lineman or extra tight end on the field this year. That to me just screams identity. Like that, they have leaned into this.
Yep.
And I think they're going to continue to lean into this. And with Cincinnati coming into town, that's a number 17 team. It's a good football team, but they're last in the Big 12 defending the run. Seems like a recipe to lean into even more what we've been talking about today.
Well, Vegas knows it. Okay, who would have thunk that? They're higher.
Let's update that line.
They're more higher ranked than we are, and they are 2-score dogs to a team that does not play well in primetime games. So they're still betting on us there. Here's what I'll tell you about Bray. Okay, here's what the OC is doing, in my opinion, which is fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
He's lining up an empty, okay, which is brilliant. Now the defense has to show you what they're going to do. Then he sends that kid in motion, that speed motion, and now he's in the backfield, and they're back into their action just if they were in 10 personnel run. And then maybe he goes through and they throw the ball, and obviously you got that double threat there with the quarterback running the ball. But that whole action right there, right, has really changed our offense. Just that simple action of
pre-snap,
putting him in motion, and they're putting everybody out there so it looks like empty. For a coordinator, that's a nightmare, right? When New England, we used to make a living doing that. We'd start the running back out there and bring him in, right? Pre-snap, we'd bring him in, wouldn't speed motion, but it gives you a picture. And when you're not doing a great job getting the ball down the field, taking an edge where you can get it, I'm very happy with it.
There's a lot of plays where pre-snap the motions are with intent for something after the play, right? Get you moving for the handoff, get you move. There's a lot of it, Trevor, and maybe more so, that is to identify something defensively. From a linebacker perspective, give an idea of what that does. When you're watching, say you're defending this Jason Beck offense, and they're empty set, Daniel Bray comes in motion, that kind of forces your hand either to adjust your positioning, it forces your hand to almost show something. What's that dynamic like pre-snap, and what can you learn if you are Jason Beck in the quarterback?
Well, depending on who you got matching up against him, you're going to see where that defender is, right? It's usually going to be the star or something. They might put a linebacker out there or a nickel, but that's one thing, right? The man zone thing everybody knows. But really, if I'm a quarterback, I'm looking at the safeties.
Yep.
Okay, so if they go empty, someone's got to come down. If they don't come down, we're definitely running this football against too high, and we saw that, right? BYU ran a bare front. We ain't seen a bare front in years here, so they come out in the bare front. We start attacking the edges. That's how you attack the bare front. You go to the edges. And so
it seems like the last time I saw it was against them.
Probably. We used to run it at Jackson State. It's an old Buddy Ryan thing. Everybody knows that story. But the fact that the OC, he's figuring it out with what they got, right? We don't have a receiver right now. We don't have one. 12 is nice. Okay, he's more of a guy that can get it done when he's open. 9, we know what he's about. We're still looking for that guy. And if we don't have him, it seems to be that Bray seems to be the guy that's opening it up for us. We're running the ball for big plays.
Obviously, we've talked about it, leaning into that identity, that running game. This is a matchup where I think that's perfectly fine. In fact, not to discount Cincinnati, I think Utah covers comfortably today, and I think they win comfortably today. I think that because of the matchup, right? Not because of who Cincinnati is, but more so because of how these teams fit together. I think Utah's going to run the football till the cows come home. And I think Cincinnati's going to be – the onus is going to be on them to score with Utah, because I think Utah's putting up 35 points at least tonight, right? That's just how I see this game playing out. And if you listen to this show, I don't usually take that hard of a stance when two ranked teams are playing, because I think it's more evenly matched. But today I really do think – schematically, this is not a good matchup for Cincinnati. And for Utah, I think that leaning into that identity is something you can get away with today. But Trevor, as you've talked about, as has been a theme of this show all year long, getting the ball down the field, the verticality to the offense still has been something that is very fleeting. We've seen it here and there. It's been called back on a few plays, right, where you got an illegal lineman downfield, something silly there. But there are matchups, I think, in this conference that you're going to need to see that a little bit more. Texas Tech, if you see them again. BYU, if you see them again. Do you want to at least see something today, even if it's just get it on tape?
Well, it could be, right? Again, I could want to see that. And I say could conditionally be speaking on that, because maybe we're 95 Nebraska. And I say that with all due respect to one of the great teams in the history of the game, if not the greatest. But they didn't do a whole lot of throwing the ball down the field. And they ran over people.
Right.
And they knew what they were – they ran 8 plays, okay? and they ran you over, and they crushed everyone.
Well, and you know what they did? If you go watch, I'm going to get your thoughts on this. They ran 8 plays and a lot of I formation, a lot of in-your-face football. But you know what they also did? A lot of motion stuff where back in those days, it wasn't as common as you see in college football.
Yeah, they're running the bone, dude.
But they're running the bone. You're seeing the option. You're seeing the pre-snap stuff that's identifying the read guy on the defensive side of the football. And I mean, yeah, you're seeing principles of that with this Utah offense with a lot of kind of modern stuff that Jason Beck is throwing in. I think it's fun to watch, and you're not wrong. We've now seen Utah lose 2 games in the situations where they may have needed to show a little bit more of that.
Who we are built like in the NFL is Philadelphia. Okay, we're huge.
A little bit.
Okay, we're good on defense.
Mm-hmm.
We're tough. Where we are lacking is that they have Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown.
Yep.
They got 2 guys they
and
know
Brayton
can
Covey.
win. And they got B. Covey, okay? But they got those 2 guys. And it's like, well, yeah, if everyone has those 2 guys. Well, I'm just saying, when you're built to crush people, right, you got to have a little bit of speed, unless you're going to go the other way. And in college, you can win running the bone. It's been done before. And I'm going to go back to preseason all-conference. Go look at the list. We didn't have a single guy on there, not on the first team except for them 2 tackles.
Right. And the point you bring up with Philadelphia having those 2 like big physical.
They got Lane Johnson and my tall. They're huge. I played against Lane. He's a monster.
I'm talking on the outside though, right?
Smith and Brown are dogs, dude.
When
They're greyhounds.
When you can run the ball, you're winning first downs. You're staying ahead of the chains, and then it's 2nd and 2, 2nd and 4, and you can just kind of step back and boop.
That's it.
Toss it up to one of those guys. It doesn't have to be this. In order to get some verticality to your offense, it doesn't have to be this fancy route tree. Hey, just get that guy in a one-on-one situation, run a motion before the play, and identify who is on an island, and throw it up there. Utah hasn't had that guy yet.
No,
kind of
it's the tight end.
Develop.
The tight end is the best receiver,
and I think you're right. It's
and
probably
81's the second best.
It's probably Buchanan or Dallas or Bentley in that regard.
And 9's not bad, but again, I always say this: 9 is my 3rd receiver if I'm running this. If I'm setting things up, I want 2 guys. I want 9 in that slot, killing people.
He may get as many targets as your other guys, but you know what he is. He is your possession receiver. He is
cool.
He is your 3rd down guy in a lot of situations. He is your Devin Dampier is extending the play. Ryan Davis may be breaking off his route and coming into the flat and saving him on that. That's the role Ryan Davis plays, and it's very much needed. But yeah, like we said, if you can get a little more of a threat from, it looks like probably a Larry Simmons at this point, because
maybe
Tobias Merriweather wasn't showing it early season, and now he's out.
Yeah.
So I think it's you're looking at 12, as Trevor would like to say.
Well, 12 is okay, but he's just okay. He's okay. I think this game, if I'm coordinating against this offense, I'm going to be saying this: we're going to match up with the tight ends. We're going to stop this run.
Yeah.
So I think the tight ends are going to have a big game.
I think so too.
I think collectively, maybe over 120 yards, a couple touchdowns. I could see that happening.
But to your point, Trevor, I don't think you're going to need it tonight.
You sound confident, man. This is the 17th ranked team in the country. You're talking to me like they're the Wyoming Cowboys, dude.
I know.
Good heavens. We ain't playing the Pokes, dude. We're playing the Cincinnati Bearcats.
And let me be clear.
They were in the playoff a few years ago with Ritter, weren't they?
They were. Luke Fickell and co. They were in the playoff. They made a playoff run. In a lot of ways, Cincinnati is emblematic of Utah's G5 to, trying to build upon that status. And listen, I'm not discounting the Bearcats. I think they're going to continue to have a good season. I just think, and you know this, Trevor, football can be so matchup specific sometimes that you see one team look like, I'm looking at Arizona State and what they look like against Utah versus the next week. And the ups and downs in football are, a lot of fans think it's momentum. It's what happened to our guys. Not that much happened between now and last Saturday. It's just a bad matchup. A lot of football is based on matchups.
And they didn't have a quarterback at ASU, okay? They had the guy Sims. We killed him, just like every other team did over the last 5 years. But Levitt came in the next week. What'd they do? They whooped up on T-Tech, who's killing Kansas State right now.
The Big 12 after today, and we're going to give you guys a Big 12 scoreboard update, a much-needed one here in a little bit. Some help, depending on how you look at it, with Utah in their Big 12 title game hopes. Yes, we'll give you Big 12 scores and top 25 scores across the country and more. But next, it's Kyle Whittingham, his weekly press conference. I am up there every Monday catching Kyle live. You can hear that here on ESPN 700, 92.1 FM. But if you missed it, we'll play it on the segment to come. This is Utes Game Day. Porter Larsen, Trevor Reilly, Darrell Mack. Trev's uncle in studio with us. Shout out.
Scott Kimball, baby, in the house.
You're a Kimball?
Brighton High School class of what, 73, 74?
We got to talk more because we're probably related as well.
There we go.
As our old Utah stock are.
That's right.
We'll get back to it on the other side. It is a Utes Game Day on Utah's #1 sports talk in your home of the Utes since what, 1940 or so? It's ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM.
This is Utah quarterback Devin Dampier, and you're listening to Utah football on your home of the Utes, ESPN 700, 92.1 FM.
QB1 bringing us back on a Utes Game Day pregame show, Devin Dampier. Make sure you tune in each and every week to hear Dishing with Devin on the Sean O'Connell Show. Comes your way each and every Thursday on the home of the Utes, ESPN 700. More Utes Game Day to come. We've got a college football scoreboard update, Coordinator's Corner, Big 12 injury availability report more appropriately, predictions with our guy James, and more still to come in the Utes Game Day pregame show. But as we do each and every week, brought to you by our friends at Sound Warehouse, it's Kyle Whittingham.
Good response by our guys this week. Really played well. All three phases. Offense, defense, special teams were all clicking. Thought our freshman quarterback, Bird Ficklin, played exceptionally well for his first outing, and really, was a big positive for us. Just not, just all positives. Really nothing negative coming out of that game. Defense, 7 sacks, less than 150 yards total low. And it was a very aggressive game plan by Coach Scally. I think we were about 70% pressure, and so it was very effective. Ran the football exceptionally well. In addition, offensively, and that's when we're at our best, is when we're running the ball. We had to the tune of 420 yards rushing, and so that was another big plus in the game. And so really, that kind of sums it up. I mean, it was very positive all across the board. Cincinnati coming in here, red hot team. Had the tough loss in the opener, right down to the wire with Nebraska, and have since rattled off 7 wins in a row. And so they're playing exceptionally good football. Quarterback's a big, strong kid, dual threat, can run, can throw. They're 11 personnel team, 75% of the time, mixed in with some 12. and that 3-3-5 on defense that a lot of people are playing, and so got our work cut out for us this week. Have to have another great week of preparation, as always. That's what it's all about. And we got to come ready to play another 8:15 kickoff. So night game for our fans. Our fans seem to love to come out to those night games. So we're looking forward to another great environment. And the environment last week was terrific. It was a homecoming crowd, and can't say enough positive things about our fans, the muss, the band. It was all going on Saturday night. So we need to repeat that this coming weekend. So questions? How about those Mammoths? 7 in a row now. Yeah, 7 in a row. Yeah, so best record in the NHL. I think we got the most. We were tied for, I think, the Devils. And, did you just snort? Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, yeah. Go Mammoth.
Win on Saturday in all phases. With Cincinnati rolling into town, we have struggled with the top-tier teams in the Big 12 with the offensive line levitation in the red zone and the subsequent lack of offensive production. What is your plan to correct this deficiency?
Wow, that's a lot of stuff. Did you say levitation? Define levitation for me. Like levitating, like we're rising up?
The push.
Okay. Well, we fare, again, good teams is, there's typically, it's tougher matchups. Not that that's an excuse, but good teams are good teams for a reason. I mean, they're good football teams, but I think this year we've had 6 really good ball games and twice where we didn't play our best. But we're just going to continue working and trying to figure out ways to continue to win games. And I don't have a great answer other than that. So tough question, but thank you.
Do you expect Devin Dampier to do that?
We'll see how practice goes. It's only Monday, obviously. Practice cranks back up tomorrow, and he's certainly feeling better each day. But really, we'll just have to see how he progresses and where that goes. And if he's not ready, then we know Bird is ready to go again if he needs to be.
Over the course of your long career, leave all the names out of it, but there may have been times where you started a quarterback who wasn't anywhere near 100% because you thought that player could go and was still way better than anybody else you could have put out there.
Mm-hmm.
Did Bert Thicklin change your idea maybe of what would be possible if Devin Dampier isn't 100%? Do you think you can see him performing at a level now where maybe it would make sense either in the middle of the game or before a game to get him?
Well, I think the bottom line is, and always will be, which quarterback, which player for any position for that matter gives you the best chance of winning. And if a 90% Devin Dampier we feel gives us a better chance than 100% Bird, I'm not saying that's just an example. Then we go with the guy that we think is gives us that best shot. And so I can tell you we got a lot of confidence in Bird, especially after what we saw on Saturday night. But Devin is still QB1. Make no mistake, there's no QB controversy or of any sort. And we'll just have to measure Devin's progress day by day and see where he ends up. And, it's going to be, pretty much he's got a lot of input. And, he's an experienced vet. And Saturday night he just says, hey, I'm just not feeling it. I'm ready if you have to have me. He was ready for an emergency situation if it came to that. But we'll lean on Devin a lot to figure, how he's feeling, and he's going to do what's best for the team. Devin's a team guy, and so we'll just see how things progress.
Last season, when you guys had a quarterback injury, it seemed to be like a snowball effect in terms of adversity, where just everything started going wrong. But this year, specifically with Saturday's game, it seemed like the team kind of rallied and showed a lot of resilience, and you ended up having one of your best performances, not only of this season, but the past couple, 3 seasons on offense and defense. What does it say about kind of the mental toughness of this group that they were able to respond to Dampier going out and kind of step their game up, especially after a loss the week earlier?
Yeah, it says a lot, and also a lot about our leadership on the football team. We've got great leadership on this team. Our captains have done a phenomenal job all season long, And we announced to the team after warm-ups, hey, it's Bird's show. We got to support him and rally around him, and they were fired up about that. The opportunity to help him out and be at our best, and so compliments and kudos to the team for doing just that. For being able to rally around the replacement quarterback and play like we did. I mean, we played as well as we've played in a long time.
Kyle, College Game Day is coming to town for this matchup. Just walk me through how, I guess, getting a national show like that. Obviously, Big Noon has been here multiple times for multiple games this year. I guess, just as a head coach, how do you kind of navigate, having that national attention, and does it create the possibility for any distractions during the week? I mean, just walk me through that.
Well, that's the thing you want to avoid is distractions, and those shows, they do a good job of not really being a distraction for your guys. I mean, the biggest distraction is guys just knowing that they're on, the center stage and having those guys come to town. So, but they're very non-invasive and for the players especially, and they get it. And so it's good for the program, overall, in the big picture. It's great for the university, the program, the community, state of Utah. So I think it's got so many positive things to it, positive aspects. And as a coach, you just try to, early in the week, make sure that your guys understand that, hey, they're here, but it's business as usual, and we don't approach it any differently as far as our preparation. And that they got to be able to block out the noise and not get caught up in it, because we got a game to play and we got to prepare and go through our paces just like we always do.
Coach, you mentioned the 71% pressure rate in the game. I would be curious.
I said around 70%.
Around 70.
Yeah.
I knew. I saw it was 71.
Who said that?
PFF.
Yeah, I think they added some simulated pressures in there, and then also in short yardage when you fill the gaps up, it's not really a pressure, but anyway, 93% of statistics are made up on the spot. So, there you go. Okay.
How do you build off of a performance like that, where you have so much pressure and you've got to maintain that the rest of the way?
Yeah, well, each week is different, and so you're not going to be able to get away with that much pressure in certain weeks, or nor do you want to try to. And so Coach Scally does a masterful job, as does all three of our coordinators, of putting together plans and things that we feel give us the best chance to succeed, and what fits that particular week, and what a certain team is susceptible to, what they're good at handling. I mean, we do all kinds of breakdowns, computer breakdowns as far as the quarterbacks we're facing. How do they handle 3-man rush, 4-man rush, 5-man rush, and so forth? And that gives us a lot of direction on how to go about putting the game plan together. But it's a week-to-week thing, and some weeks this is probably the highest dose of pressure I can ever remember us applying, and it kind of snowballed. You talk about things snowballing. The more we blitzed, the better it got, and so we just kept on doing it and continued to work. So that was definitely the right move this past week.
What impressed you most about Bird, maybe even during the week, and how he prepared?
His composure and his he's just unflappable. He nothing bothers him, and he is an intelligent young man, extremely intelligent. He's got pretty much the whole offense at his disposal, and that's saying a lot for a true freshman. And he's so athletic. That's another thing. It's something that is so makes him so difficult to defend, and such a so much upside as a quarterback. He's so athletic. He's fast. He's quick. He can make people miss. He's tough. He can take hits, and he's got a really good arm. His arm talent was not really on display Saturday night like it really is, most days in practice. I mean, he's got great accuracy and a strong arm. Wasn't real sharp in the throw game. His numbers were just okay throwing the football. But as he gets more time and down the road in the future, I think you're going to realize that he's got a really good, accurate, strong arm in addition to his athleticism.
Kyle, I'm curious about your thoughts on, Bird and Larry Simmons seems to have, a great connection. There was a couple of times where, they were on the same page last night or on Saturday. And also, in that West Virginia game, Bird had that deep shot to Larry. How have the two of them maybe, worked together through this process as the season has went on?
I think that's probably more coincidence than anything. I don't think there's any concerted effort or any special bond that he and Larry have. I think it's just a matter of, like I said, Larry being in the right place at the right time and the right route called, and Bird looking in the right location. So I wouldn't put it any more than that, as far as that goes.
You look at Cincinnati, they got a quarterback that's with 20 touchdowns, 1 interception.
Yeah.
They've only turned the ball over 4 times.
Tremendous. Yeah.
They got such a balanced offense. They have 3 guys over 400 yards rushing, 4 guys over 300 yards receiving.
Mm-hmm.
How do you concentrate or attack a team that's balanced as that?
Yeah, they're very balanced. You hit it all. All the not all the positive, but the things that they do exceptionally well, and they're also really good. Red zone touchdown percentage is over 70%. Balanced, as you say, nearly 200 yards rushing and about 280 or 90 throwing, scoring nearly 40 points a week, and they can hurt you different ways. But maybe the biggest RPO team that we faced as well. They really lean heavily on the RPOs, and so Coach Scally and the defense has their work cut out for them. But I got no doubt that we'll have a good plan, and it's just a matter of going out and executing. But they present problems. There's no doubt about it. They're one of the best offenses in the league.
2 more, Steve, DJ.
Coach, we didn't really get to ask you last week about him, but your thoughts on just Coach Prime and the job he's done there in Colorado?
Terrific job, and he has brought that program back into national prominence. They're sold out every week. They got great crowds there. What he did last year, had a terrific year last year. They're not where they want to be this year, I'm sure, but he has just injected all kinds of passion, energy, enthusiasm into the program, and that's who he is. He exudes that. I mean, with his personality and the way he goes about his business, and so can't say enough good things about what he's doing there.
Can you talk about Cincinnati's run defense? Because obviously you guys have an elite rushing attack.
Haven't really studied that yet. As I say every week in the press conference, I start with their O, and I get to the defense by about this evening. So.
Then in that case, switching gears.
Okay.
We're seeing coaches get let go with $49, $53 million of it. It seems crazy.
Chicken feed to those big programs. Drop in the bucket. Anyway, what were you going to say?
Just your thought if this is going to continue to escalate,
Yes.
if there's a way to control it and slow it down?
I think as long as the NIL still exists, and you say you got the rev share, but the rev share is just a piece of the pie. That's it. I mean, there's many more resources and things that are available to the players at these blue blood schools than just the rev share. And when big boosters are pumping millions of dollars into rosters, they want results. It's more pressure's on more so now than ever as far as needing immediate results. And if the boosters, if you got a guy that's giving you 40, 50 million bucks, he's going to have some say in what goes on. And if he's not happy with what's going on and he wants a change, most likely there's going to be a change. I think Coach Saban had some good, kind of that along that same line about a week ago or several days ago that was really accelerating coaches' shelf life, and so I don't see that changing unless there's a dramatic change in the structure of college football and how the players are compensated and where it heads. I think as long as it's in the current climate, you're going to continue to see massive turnover like that, especially at the upper echelon schools. All right, the pizza's still here. Just making sure we didn't quit on you. Okay, there we go. Thank you.
That's Kyle Whittingham, the head ball coach. Brought to you each and every week by Sound Warehouse. Rocking your ride for 47 years. 3 convenient locations, Salt Lake, Orem, and Ogden. Visit soundwarehouse.com today. Or if you stop into Sound Warehouse during the week, you can pick up a VIP tailgate pass to hang out with the ESPN 700 crew at the next Utes home game. Car stereo systems, navigation integration, amplifiers, and more. All of your audio and visual solutions at Sound Warehouse and soundwarehouse.com. How about a Big 12 update on the other side, both on the scoreboard and the standings? The race for the Big 12 championship, Texas Tech, BYU, the Utes, all these teams still in it, including Cincinnati. Number 17, Bearcats, and the number 24 Utes go to battle 8:15. We'll hand it over to Bill Riley, Scott Mitchell, and Stevenson Sylvester in about an hour. It is Utes Game Day on ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM.
Hey y'all, this is O-Block member Spencer Fano, and you're listening to Utah Football on your home of the Utes, ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM.
The captain, Spencer Fano, bringing us back in on a Utes game day. ESPN 700, 92.1 FM. I am Porter Larsen, Trevor Reilly, sitting across from me, Darrell Mack in the studio. I got a Kimball cousin in here, old Scott Kimball.
Kimball.
Trevor's uncle. James Peterson behind the glass taking us through it. In about an hour, we're going to send it up to the hill. Bill Riley, Scott Mitchell, Stevenson, Sylvester, they are at the Smiths tailgate tent awaiting kickoff of a top 25 matchup in Salt Lake City. It is Cincinnati. It is Utah. Big 12 championship implications on the line. Speaking of the Big 12, how about a little update for you across the conference? Texas Tech looks like they're going to get the win. They are in victory formation against Kansas State. That's 43-20 as the Red Raiders get to 8-1, 4-1, now 5-1 in Big 12 play. They stay alive in the Big 12 title race. In Kansas, Jayhawks get a 38-21 win over Oklahoma State. The Cowboys still without a Big 12 win on the season. West Virginia, 45-35, the win over Houston. And, of course, Houston was 7-1. They were 4-1 in conference play. So that is big in Big 12 championship race implications. Baylor, the 30-3 win over UCF. So they get to over 500 and get to 500 in Big 12 play. And then Arizona State, another Big 12 title race implication here. They squeak out the win. No Sam Leavitt, but Sims, who struggled against Utah, gets the win for Arizona State, keeps them in Big 12 championship contention. 24-19, the win for the ASU Sun Devils. Still to come tonight, it's Arizona at Colorado and Cincinnati at Utah. Of course, BYU, who is in the driver's seat in the Big 12 championship race right now. They are off this week, and they've got a tough schedule to finish the rest of the season. So the Big 12 standings as of this very second: BYU at 5-0, Cincinnati at 5-0, Texas Tech moving to 5-1, Houston now at 4-2, alongside a few other two lost teams. That is Utah, TCU. Kansas State is going to be moved off of that list here momentarily. And Arizona State, of course, the two lost teams along with the Houston Cougars. All right, Trev, when you look at the Big 12 title race, you look at where we are right now, there's still 5-6 teams that are technically still alive. But with Texas Tech's win tonight, with BYU on a bye, and Cincinnati in Salt Lake tonight, those teams have a driver's seat. Utah can shake things up a bunch with a win tonight. How do you see things shaking out, and how much does it affect what still a pretty wide open Big 12 race?
So how I understand this, we need BYU to win out. Okay, that would be great. So they get the spot there. And then what we need is a three-way tie.
The reason you need BYU to win out is because that would give Texas Tech another loss.
Yes.
Just to clarify that
They
part.
play each other. Thank you. It takes care of itself. That would give them 2 losses, which would then be a tie with us and another team, hopefully, with 2 losses.
Right.
And then with that, we will have, I believe, the tiebreaker. So we need a 3-ring circus of 2 lost teams, and we need BYU to be undefeated. I think it's possible. Shoot, anything's possible. Do you remember 2011? We gave it away. These things tend to work out sometimes. If we keep winning, I think we're going to get in, dude.
2011 gave it away, and then, of course, the second Pac-12 championship that they did get, Utah kind of needed, I don't want to say a miracle. That's not, miracles don't necessarily happen in football. But, man, they needed, I think, 6 or 7 points to hit on the final day of conference play, and they all did.
That's
and Utah snuck into the conference championship game, and they found themselves in another Rose Bowl. That was really impressive, and of course, still relied upon some help, some fortune in your favor. It's not even that complicated this year. As of now, the path for Utah to get back to a title game is actually much more simple than that one, based on a few things that happened today, including as we mentioned that
Houston.
That Houston loss.
Yeah, man, that's a big loss. Who'd they play? West Virginia.
West
Dude,
Virginia,
couldn't get a
45-35
playoff against us.
Yeah.
Okay, go figure. This conference, that team looked like a junior college team when we played them, and they go beat Houston.
It goes back to what I was talking about, man. Like a lot of, and momentum is real in some ways. You can't measure momentum, but I really do think that a lot of what fans think is what happened to our team this week. Not that much. It's a matchup. It's a matchup sport, just as everyone is. If you're playing basketball and you got a guy on the other side of the court that is just taller and faster and, good ball handler, and you got no one who can guard, that's a matchup issue. And in football, sometimes it can be a little harder to see because it's just pure chaos at the line of scrimmage. But, man, if you get a bad matchup, which I think this Utah offensive line against this front of Cincinnati, I think things can get ugly. And as I've said throughout a good portion of this show, I kind of think, and I lean, we'll give you our final predictions in a little under an hour, but I'm leaning towards that being the scenario, with the onus being on the Cincinnati Bearcats to find something to counter that, right? Whether that is putting up 40 points to keep pace with Utah, or whether that is creating turnovers of their own, I'm not sure. But I do think that the 10.5-point spread that you're seeing is fair, and I think it's representative of the matchup that we see today. All right, when we look at the Big 12 race, we've seen Texas Tech, we've seen BYU, both of those teams now with wins over Utah. If we take them off of the table, which team in this conference do you think poses the most struggle, the most problems, matchup-wise for Utah?
Well, Houston. Okay?
You think so?
The speed is always an issue for Utah, right? If we don't have speed, right, on offense, that means we got to run the ball, which we've been doing a great job of. But I'm always concerned about teams that have speed and have big play abilities. Okay, running quarterback's also been a kryptonite for Utah over the years. This team this year, we've done a great job against pretty much everybody. Even Texas Tech, the game, they had, 10 points going into the fourth quarter. We gave it up in the fourth. Yeah. And to your point about matchup, I'm watching them strangle teams out here. They just strangled KSU out. They stepped on them, and they just eventually, when you have better players, you can eventually, the odds are, just like blackjack, the more cards that hit that table, the better odds that the casino has to win. And the more the game goes, right, the better teams should squeeze them out. I thought Utah a few weeks ago had a better roster than BYU. I thought they were going to win by 2 scores and choke these guys out. BYU's finding ways to win. We talked about West Virginia finding a way to win. And that's the mentality that Utah has to take on themselves. This season, we've quit in 2 fourth quarters. Okay, and last year that was a common theme after Cam got hurt, right? Wasn't it? Were the Utes going to show up this week? Well, who knows, man? And so we have to find that will to win, and we have it. I think if we went out, we're going to get in. I really believe that. I think if we went out, there's so much chaos going. If we went out at 10-2, we're getting in the final 12, I think.
And that is a distinct possibility. And if you win out and you're 10-2, there are several scenarios where you're in a Big 12 title game and you can play your way in anyway. So
that's exactly right, man.
For Utah and for Cincinnati, this is a huge, huge Big 12 matchup, and one that both teams need really, really badly as the Big 12 title race goes along. How about some other scores across college football throughout this Saturday afternoon? Still going right now, Virginia and Cal, which is a conference game, by the way. The Virginia Cavaliers and the Cal Bears are playing a conference game.
It's the battle of stuffed up public schools. Let's see who wins, dude.
24. Is it the battle of the woke agenda?
I say just
Trevor Reilly.
They've been known as they're pompous on the East Coast, and Cal is what Cal is on the West Coast. 24-21. The Cavaliers are leading Cal. And as a Hokies fan, talk all the dirt you want on Virginia. I'm all for it. Ole Miss and South Carolina, they are all knotted up early in Mississippi. Purdue and Michigan just getting going in the Big House. Georgia Tech, NC State still to come. Oklahoma, Tennessee still to come in a big SEC showdown. USC, Nebraska, again, a conference game between USC and Nebraska.
Cincinnati and Utah, of course, kicking off at about 8:15. And then those that have gone final in the top 25, Georgia, 24-20, a tight win over Florida. They get the win in Jacksonville. We talked about it already. Texas Tech, the win over Kansas State. Ohio State, the number 1 Buckeyes, they remain perfect with a win over Penn State. Indiana, they remain perfect. The number 2 team in the country, 55-10 over Maryland. Texas upsets Vanderbilt. Yes, Texas upsets Vanderbilt 34-31 in Austin. SMU with the win over top 10 Miami, 26-20 in overtime. So SMU gets the win over Cristobal and the Canes.
They're front runners, dude. Always
telling
been.
you, Notre Dame as well. Number 12 Notre Dame 25-10 over Boston College. That one was tight a little bit early on. Louisville gets the win over VT 28-16, and then the Big 12 matchup we talked about a little bit earlier, a big one in regards for the Big 12 championship race. West Virginia takes down Houston. In Houston is the other part of that, 45-35. The Cougars go down, and another domino falls in the Big 12. Virginia just scored. They're going to beat Cal. That one's going to go final shortly. On the other side, hey, how about Coordinator's Corner? We talked about it a bunch, Trevor. Cincinnati is a team that I think defensively, they have a lot of problems that they're going to face tonight against Utah's running game. But offensively, they have a quarterback that I believe is going to be playing on Sundays.
Oh, yeah.
And Morgan Scalley, a guy who blitzed Colorado more than anyone in the history of football. I'm speaking
hyperbolic.
I'm speaking in jest here. He's blitzed 70% of the plays against Colorado last week. I think you're going to see a little less of that this week because that quarterback will take advantage of that. But we're going to hear about what Morgan Scalley thinks of this Cincinnati team and about how he goes about defending them. Coordinator's Corner comes your way on the other side on the Utes Game Day on ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM.
This is Utah linebacker Lander Barton, and you're listening to Utah Football on your home of the Utes, ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM.
Lander Barton, Utes linebacker, bringing us back in on a Utes game day on ESPN 700. In case you missed it, each and every week, Sean O'Connell sits down with one of the coordinators from the University of Utah. This week, on the defensive side, how about a little chat with Morgan Scalley?
We're lucky enough this week in Coordinator's Corner to catch up with the guy calling the defense, Morgan Scalley, coming off a huge performance against the University of Colorado. Tough task ahead against a Cincinnati offense that has had a lot of success. Morgan, how are you, sir?
Doing well, brother. How are you doing?
Doing great, man.
Must be nice to have the show named after you. You know what I mean?
Yes. Well, I didn't give him any choice. I said,
okay,
at least pretend you care.
It's got
that
to
it's
be
my
my
show.
name. Yeah.
Now, look, man, Saturday night was a lot of fun for me. Homecoming week, a bunch of the old boys down on the sideline. I talked with our guy Kite for probably like 20 minutes during the game. And all the while, your defense was stopping Colorado from moving. The offense was pouring in the points. Rice Eccles Stadium was rocking. How gratifying was that performance in a bounce-back scenario for your defense and your team?
It's awesome. You know, rarely do you get those games where it seems like everything's clicking the right way. Very proud of our guys, like you had mentioned, bouncing back from a loss and not letting that loss get you another time. So credit to the leaders on both sides of the ball, really, for getting those guys ready. And it was a basically clean film to watch, which is really nice.
So walk me through the decision-making process coming up to the Colorado game. It seemed like an aggressive game plan, a lot of pressure, simulated pressures, given different pictures for their quarterback, and it ended up being quarterbacks in that game. What did you see on film that made you think this was the right way to approach that game?
Well, I knew that when the quarterback was facing pressure, I wouldn't say he necessarily got rattled. I would just say that his eyes would come off of his reads, and he looked more to escape than to stay alive to make the throw. So I knew that's kind of what we wanted to do. Did I go in saying, hey, we're going to pressure this guy as much as we did? No, I'm always about situational football and formational football. What are you telling me by your formation, and what can we take advantage of? And fortunately, it just worked out that way, and guys got after him. I think a lot of the time too, where people maybe think we're pressuring, it's guys adding on based on what the running back and tight end are doing. So it may not be a called pressure, but because of protection and the way they protected it, our guys were going to add. So it just happened that way.
I know we've talked about this before, but it seems like Trey Reynolds continues to improve, get more comfortable in the defense. He's become quite a player. I think we could say the same about some of the young guys on the defensive line. Pupu Cepolona had a really nice game against Colorado. And it's interesting because as fans, as observers, you kind of head it into a season with expectations, who's going to be good, who's going to grow into a position, whatever. And to see week to week to week, guys that are not just now getting like real comfortable in their reps improve drastically. We've seen it on the offensive side with Daniel Bray. I just mentioned a couple of the defensive guys. What are they doing in practice, Morgan, that makes you trust that they're going to be able to do it in the games as well?
Well, they're doing just that. They're showing you by their behavior, and the week by week, the more confidence they gain. We practice hard, and we put our guys in tough situations to see if they can handle it. And it was, Trey ended up being one of our players of the game, him and John O'Hall. And Coach Swan's done an amazing job with that backer room, the depth that we have, the athleticism that's there in terms of he's recruited them, he's developed them, and that's what it's all about. If you're hungry and you're all about feedback and all about how can I get better week to week, you're going to see improvement. You should see improvement. And then, a lot of it too is we got to put pressure on him to make sure that come game time, it's not deer in the headlights look, that he's prepared and ready for that situation. So it's, the credit goes to those players for really buying into the process of development.
Morgan Scally is our guest here on the Sean O'Connell Show, Coordinator's Corner, brought to you by America First Credit Union. Well, the big story in the game was on the offensive side of the ball, was Devin Dampier sitting, resting because of the injury. Bird Ficklin gets the start. Second play of the game, he takes it to the house, and, he had a great night. He's a true freshman quarterback. We've seen some of him before in spot duties earlier in the season. And I know that, as a defensive coach and somebody who's totally invested in what's going on defensively, it's not your primary duty to oversee Bird or anything like that. But defenses do perform differently when they're confident that the guys on the other side and the quarterback on the other side is going to get their job done. And it felt like this was a complementary, cohesive thing going the whole way through. What does it say about Bird Ficklin and Jason Beck's development of him that everyone on this team believes with Devin Dampier out, we can still get this job done?
Oh, we saw glimpses of it in fall camp. So I've always been a Bird Ficklin fan, and Devin is the starter for a reason, and he's amazing, but also did not have any hesitation whatsoever in the belief that Bird could step up and do what he did. He'd done it against us on our defensive side in tough situations where we're bringing some heat and bringing some pressure. And, early on in his time with us, because he was a freshman, I poured it on. I didn't take it easy on him. We showed him different looks and brought some heat, and you just saw how competitive he was. He wasn't a guy that would sulk or feel sorry for himself. And you just see the development and the different times, opportunities he's gotten in games this year. He hasn't struggled. He's not shied away from the spotlight. So I was just excited for him and that opportunity. But if people ask, were you surprised? No. Did I think he was? And he did. He had some throws that he wish he had back, and there were some learning moments for sure. But man, did he shine?
At halftime, your defense had Colorado in negative yardage, and we were all chuckling about it. Is there, when you go into the locker room, does someone hand you a stat sheet and show you exactly the real numbers in real time at halftime?
They do. I don't ever look at it. I don't. I go play by play, brother. And there's certain times in a game where you can smile and say that was pretty cool. The punt block by Benny.
Awesome.
We had seen something in their protection that I'm like, I think we can get something here, Reef, and worked on it for a couple days, and they ended up doing us a favor, because usually they stacked their gunners and then they brought the gunner inside. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. They're helping us out. And so they bring one of the gunners inside, shortening the path for Benny to get to the punter, and stuff like that, where the guys really believe in what you're doing, and it happens. And that was a fun moment. But in terms of do you look at the stats? You got to go play by play and keep your emotions in check, and realize that there's 60 minutes of football, and you got to get after it. Until that last whistle. So I was pleased with the twos when they got in there. And I know we ended up giving up 7 points, but there was a lot of good football with those backups, and seeing some of their development as well.
Do you care about pitching a shutout? I know all that matters is getting the win, and it was a very convincing win. But I know you're a competitive guy as well, and you want your twos and your threes to play just as well as your ones. So did you want that to be a goose egg? And how hard on those guys are you when it's not?
You always want it to be a goose egg. And I'm gonna coach everyone hard, So am I gonna keep the starters in just so it can? No. but the backups come in. Hey, that's your job. Let's go. Step up and play ball, and let's see what you can do. And I think if you don't take it that way, and the twos don't feel like those backups don't feel like you're coaching your butt off, and it matters, then they're not necessarily fired up about that, time that they're getting. It's got to matter to them, and it matters to us. And so you coach those guys no different.
Ellis ended up tied for leading tackles, right, in the game, at least according to ESPN stats.
Yeah, I don't know what Luther and Rebecca do. That whole family, my gosh. Oh, my gosh, they're so athletic, and he's got such an unbelievably bright future. He could play – right now, just as twitchy as he could play safety, he could play linebacker. You could see him bulk up and play D-end. Cyrus Polu is another one that stepped up and had a heck of a game, just doing some really good things on special teams. The future's bright in the linebacker room.
Morgan Scalley, our guest for a couple more minutes here. Coordinator's Corner brought to you by America First Credit Union on the Sean O'Connell Show. So let's turn the focus forward. Cincinnati is a team that's up there in the conference championship race. If you guys want to stay in that conversation, you got to get the home win. Where is Cincinnati most dangerous when they're holding that ball?
The QB. QB runs the show. Really, really efficient, understands how to take advantage of weak coverage, when to fit the RPOs in there. It has a live arm, so he gets it there quick. It's not a delay. It's hey, I see that you're playing off. We're going to hit it right now. I see that you're pressed. I'm going to go for the RPO fade. So they get a lot of yardage off the RPO game. And then if you're playing soft coverage, they're going to hit you with the Q draw. And so it's a really good offense. They're coached well. The offensive line works well together. The running backs run hard. And this is a good challenge. We're excited. And we know what we're going up against is an efficient offense. So we got to bring our A game.
Sorsby, I think, is the least often sacked quarterback in all of college football, and I think one of the least often pressured quarterbacks in all of college football. Is that a function of their offensive line being dominant, or his decision-making being quick like you're talking about, and them just getting the ball out rapidly?
He is. He's a quick decision maker. And I compare him to the TCU quarterback, the Iowa State quarterback. All three of these guys really make quick, for the most part, good decisions, and when to get rid of the ball and when to avoid taking sacks and stuff like that. I think what you'll see in this offense is a little bit more RPO game than usually. If you're breaking down film and you say, okay, that's a run with an RPO, with the pass option, how many times are they really throwing that? These guys probably throw it more than most. And that's just, and as a defensive coordinator, I applaud it because it's easy yardage. I got a boundary corner playing off at 10 yards, and I can just throw it over to the wide receiver right now, and all of a sudden now it's a speed and space tackle. Well, let's take advantage of that. And then, when you're playing off and you're playing soft in coverage, okay, well, I'm a runner. I can run. I'm 235 pounds. I'm going to take off on you and make you pay for that too. So it's an efficient offense that makes you pay in different ways.
How does that change the game for your defensive ends in particular, both of whom have been great this year, and your defensive line? Because, obviously you want to collapse the pocket, get sacks, get pressure, but do you have to add different points of emphasis knowing that, they're only going to have a second and a half, 2 seconds on some of these plays?
Yeah, you definitely have to be aware of situational football. You have to be aware of getting your hands up and knocking down balls in the RPO game. Did they present opportunities for sacks? Yeah. And so don't shy away from it. The Rose Bowl where we faced that unbelievable quarterback that's now at Houston. What's his name? Starting quarterback at Houston.
Starting quarterback at Houston is Fields, is the guy that you faced, right? But he's
No,
with
we
the
didn't
Jets
face
now?
Fields. Yeah, it's the other guy. It's Houston Texans. Come on, dude. You're sports talk show. You should know
Why
this.
am I blanking? Stroud, sorry.
Stroud.
I'm
CJ
an idiot.
Stroud. There you
Stroud.
go. So that guy was as good of a decision maker as you can see, and if he felt any type of guys getting upfield, he was getting rid of that ball. And so, our defensive ends are okay. We're gonna slow you down a little bit, and just get ready to be ready to bat down balls. And then so he saw they weren't getting upfield, and he just hung on to it. And so it's like, okay, we're not making that mistake again.
Yeah.
When you got to be aggressive when that opportunity presents itself, and it's tough to slow DNs down when they're getting that pass set and they want to get after that quarterback. So those opportunities do present themselves.
All right, I know I gotta let you go. It's Halloween, so the scariest guy that you ever played with is who?
Scariest guy? Well, the meanest and the meanest language was Dave Revel.
Oh, shout out Dave Revel.
The guy that I never wanted to mess with was or really it was the brothers, Kemuatu brothers. And I remember blitzing and Chris Kemuatu. Anytime I blitzed and I was getting picked up by Chris, I was like, all right, I'm gonna shut this thing down. We're gonna look for another way.
Yes.
I'm picked up. We're good. You don't need to hit me, Chris. I'm solid.
Yes, that's I pride myself on not really being scared of anyone, but Chris Kemuatu terrified me. So I feel vindicated that
I was glad he was on our team, right?
Yeah. All right. Always appreciate your time. Good luck this weekend. We'll see you up there. Thanks, man.
You're the man. Thanks, brother. See ya.
Morgan Scally, defensive coordinator at the University of Utah in Coordinator's Corner.
What a great question from OC on Halloween weekend. The scariest player you've ever played against or with? Trevor Reilly. Same question before we get out of here. That's a good one.
Carlos Lozano. Okay. He was a 400-pound Mexican from East L.A., was an offensive lineman, and he could eat more than anyone I've ever seen. No, this was here in Utah. Okay, he was the scariest huge. Carlos Lozano. All right,
the name rang a bell, but I'm trying to I can't place it right now.
Mexican offensive lineman. He played soccer, had great feet. Okay, and then in New England, Nate Solder had a six-pack at 320. Okay, that guy could grab you and rip you in half if he wanted to.
Hulk smash.
Willie Colon was kind of an angry guy too. Now I had Willie in New York. Willie was an angry dude, and I like Willie. But I would say Utah, Carlos Lozano was kind of and Benji Kemuatu. I had Benji, the younger brother,
That's
rest
right.
in peace.
You had
and Benji was bigger than Make and Chris, and he could eat.
Wow. Okay. Good answers. The scariest player you've ever played.
I mean, Utah has had a few of those guys. Okay.
Yeah. The getting off the bus,
dude.
the getting off the bus All Americans.
How about the first time
Remember
I saw
Bam
Star?
Olaseni?
Oh, Bam, dude. Bam, look, I coached Bam. Bam, I said, Bam, you need to get in WWE, dude.
Right.
You're the black mankind, homie. He's huge, dude.
He
from London, England.
The fact that he only played football for literally a few years limited what he could do as a football player. But holy cow, when you talk about just an intimidating, now you talk to him and he's a sweetheart. Tea and crumpets, that's what you would hear him speak, but he looks like a giant bull, and he is visually one of the most intimidating people I've ever been around, but a sweetheart. We're going to get to the Big 12 availability report on the other side, not the Big 12 injury report, an important distinction. The Big 12 availability report will give you the latest on the Utes, who's available for them, who's available for Cincinnati, who's in, who's out. Still to come on the Utes Game Day pregame show, our predictions, our keys to the win, and more. It is Utes Game Day on ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM.
This is head coach Kyle Whittingham, and you're listening to Utah Football on your home of the Utes, ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM.
Kyle Whittingham, head ball coach, bringing us back in on a Utes game day on ESPN 700. Remember, the Coach Show with that guy, Kyle Whittingham, comes your way each and every Tuesday, 6 p.m. on ESPN 700. Speaking of Kyle Whittingham, Big 12 availability report time, brought to you by our friends at JBR Clinical Research. Out for Utah, Tobias Merriweather at wide receiver, Dallas Vakalahi at defensive tackle, and Semi Tuilanga, who, yeah, he's a defensive tackle, but he's also been playing some tight end. He's been playing some fullback, 320-plus pounds, catching passes. I've loved that little development from Semi Tuilanga, but out this week, Trevor Reilly.
Yeah,
a big hit for Utah's weaponry, Semi Tuilanga.
You said a stat earlier. No one's doing that more than Utah in the whole country.
Yep.
And he has that body like Lozano did. He's got them toothpick legs with that big square body, and he has good feet. He can catch the ball. So he's our version of Taysom Hill. No, I'm just kidding, but he's awesome.
Let's get him under center.
He's awesome. D-Mac, what do you think of this guy? You know what I'm talking about? Big 91.
No, he's nimble on the twinkle toes.
When you got a guy that's that big and can move,
yeah,
hey, get him involved, even if it's a lead blocker, right? You see teams that are willing to do that. It's not always a gimmick when you're throwing a 300-plus pounder out there to catch a pass or to be a lead blocker. Sometimes, man, that is effective.
And he catches it too.
You got a guy that got soft hands, soft feet.
He's smooth.
Get him the ball. I want more. He's out this week, but when you get back with Semi Tuilanga, I want more involvement on the offensive side. Get Lander out of there. Get Smith Snowden out of there. I want more snaps from Semi.
Let me ask you this, D-Mac. What if you run an ISO and that's your fullback? How nice would that be?
I mean, that's good. Man, it's a lot of space. Create a lot of room right there. You either go to the left or the right.
That's right. Porter, you'd be right behind that big square body, man.
You can give me the football back there.
Exactly,
I'll get you a few yards. Not as many as Darrell Mack, but I'll get you a few yards. As I mentioned, out for Cincinnati, Evan Pryor and Terrell Holcomb. Evan Pryor is their leading rusher this year, but only by a couple yards. They definitely have like a 1-2 punch going on, but that puts a lot of pressure on their other backs, right? When you have your top running back out. So Cincinnati working with the absence of one Evan Pryor. How they address that will be interesting because I do think against this Utah team, Cincinnati's going to have to run the football. They're going to have to sustain drives. They're going to have to be two-dimensional, or this Utah defense is going to pin their ears back, and I think it'll be a long night. Speaking of the Big 12 availability report in general is something that has got a lot of discussion in this market this week because of one Kyle Whittingham. He's a guy who, listen, he's an old-school coach. He's not going to give you more than he has to anyway. But we're in a new age of college football where there's a lot of pressure on staffs, on players, on coaches to tell you who's playing. Vegas wants to know. We all are sitting at home playing our fantasy games. We want to know. The radio guys all week, they want to know so they know what to talk about on the radio. But from a coaching perspective, if I am Kyle Whittingham, I am keeping as much as possible close to the vest. People accuse him of being a little paranoid about it or being a little
withholding,
cute about it, or withholding. I think that's kind of his job, is to win football games.
Yeah,
Hot take.
Does
it give you an advantage, Trevor, and how much so to the point where you're getting pressure from national media outlets and sometimes even a little bit from the conference, but you're really not showing much interest in participating in the practice?
I think that he's doing what he knows he's always done.
Yeah.
And that sounds real rudimentary, but think about what I said there. He's doing what he knows he's always done. This is what he's done every week for how many years? Since
30.
30 years? You don't tell anything about
Kyle Whittingham
injuries.
took a job at Utah, I think.
91?
94.
94.
2 months before I was born.
Yeah, he's been there your whole life, homie.
Yeah.
And he is going to do this as best he can.
I got wrinkles.
He is someone who's going to take it to the edge, right? And that's why he's great. But this is going to get all settled by the conference after the season because Vegas pays bills, and they don't like this stuff.
Right.
And so what it does is it helps you gain maybe, let's say 1 or 2%. It could be that, or maybe it could be more.
Even if it's smaller, Kyle's going to take that.
He's going to take the edge because he says, why not? It doesn't cost us anything.
If it's 0.1%.
I got to spend energy to tell you guys who's hurt. What if I don't want to?
And he's going to take the arrows for it. If people are calling him, Brett McMurphy, who's a national, well-respected journalist, called him, I don't want to paraphrase, disingenuous is the word, right? And listen, if you're a football coach, your job isn't to provide genuine availability reports. Now, the conference has mandated it, but here's the issue. While Kyle Whittingham was a coach at the University of Utah, if you paid any attention, you know that he's going to give you the minimal on this. And what the Big 12 did is they allowed for vagaries in the availability report. In the language that they released, they give you a percentage, 25, 50, 75, 100%. In, probable, questionable, out, right? So you're asking coaches now to do math on every player on their roster based on their probability of if they're going to play or not. Kyle's not doing that. Sorry. He's going to tell you if they're playing or not. He's going to leave it up to the training staff, and you're getting exactly 0 additional from that. I understand the frustration there, but if you're the Big 12, you have to give more clear language, and you can't give a coach whose job it is to find a competitive advantage on the margins any margin. The Big 12 gave him a margin. He's taking it, and now he's taking heat for it. He doesn't care. He wants to win football games.
Well, Bill Belichick's the same way. You know, he always was as a pro, but Coach Witt is realizing, and I don't want to speak for him, but I'm listening to him speak. We give these pressers every week. If you go to the beginning of the season and you go to this last one, he's getting. I think he's morphing just a little bit because this is now pro ball, and there's big money on the line for a lot of people, and so those guys pay bills, and they're going to have meetings about this. And Coach Witt, he's going to take it all the way to the edge, though. He's one of those old school guys like Coach Belichick and like all these other guys. Urban Meyer was the same way. That's how we do it, dude. And we're trying to win. We play to win the game, dude. We're not playing for any other. We play to win. And that's how it is. But talk about this week. If I'm Cincinnati, who am I preparing for? That's a tough deal now. Coach says both are playing. So if you're Cincinnati, are you getting ready for this run attack with Ficklin and all this stuff? Or are you going to have to match up? That can give you an edge. You can see where that can be an issue. You only have 20 hours a week to practice, Porter. That's it.
And, Trevor, I hear people use the argument when they're talking about the availability reports, the injury reports, and they're like very pro injury report. Like, we want all the info. We want it transparent. We want it now. One of their arguments is that it's not a competitive advantage, right? I've heard people say that. Who's playing Saturday? I think that is a complete wrong take. If you don't know who you are preparing against, if you don't know, especially at the quarterback position, if there's a gray area there, there are teams that, based on who the quarterback is playing, they will literally change the playbook. They will run different playbooks based on who is at a certain position.
Yes.
So for me, the people who claim it's not a competitive advantage and everyone should just get on board and listen to Las Vegas and play it straight. I think they're playing too much Madden. They're playing too much Madden, okay? A little bit.
And the reason I say that, D-Mac, you know what I'm talking about. If you are watching tape, I'm watching the scheme here or there. But as the week goes on, I'm watching individuals. Right. I'm seeing who I can get an edge on.
You're watching little traits on, hey, this this quarterback's ball to the outside edge of the field is it's a little floaty, right? Maybe I can jump it a little more than I would against a normal opponent, right? So a guy that's throwing a dart to the outside sideline, you're maybe not going to jump that route. But when you find those little tendencies in film, it changes the way you play. So for those that, just think it's not a competitive advantage and it's drama created by Kyle for nothing, I completely disagree. I think
it's what he's always done, man. He's always done this.
We talked about it a little bit early this season, Trevor, and I brought it up regularly last year. There was a game. I apologize for bringing all the Cam Rising stuff up again. Everyone has a little PTSD about that as a Utah fan. But there was a game against UCLA early in the year where, and I talked to Kyle about this, he knew that Utah didn't have a lot of their personnel, and they were going to need every edge they could get to beat what was not a good UCLA team, but a talented one. And Utah won that game 14-7. Cam Rising never played. He wasn't going to play. In hindsight, we can go look back. He was not medically cleared to be participating. But what he did before the game, he dressed up and he took snaps with the first team. And I was down on the sideline and I noticed this. Cam's taking first team reps. Isaac Wilson stand on the side with the second team. And UCLA starts to notice it as well. And they start changing some of their cards. They start going through a few different things defensively. It literally interrupted. I watched it interrupt UCLA's pregame schedule.
That's the ripple you're looking for, dude. That might get him for the first series. You might 3 or 4
never
plays,
played.
man.
And again, Utah won by 1 possession, 14-7, in a game where it felt like Utah needed to pull every string to get out of there with a W. And that's the kind of thing I'm talking about where, if you are talking about these availability reports as if there is nothing to them to gain, I completely disagree. It's something where we have the TV money, the gambling money, the media money, which is adjacent to gambling now, right? Guys like Brett McMurphy make money on the sports book and giving you their lines and their picks for the weekend. They need this for their content. I get it. I get why it's frustrating. But at a certain point, like, do we stop rolling over to TV and gambling money that is changing the sport we watch every weekend? I think so.
That's apropos for what's happened in the NBA recently, and we know what's been happening in college football possibly. And I mentioned a little comment yesterday. James didn't like it last week. Over under how many kids are betting on this game. Okay, I'm going to say it again. Over under, I say, could be anywhere from 3 to 5. Could be higher. And that's not for Utah specifically. Guys, it's an epidemic. You're talking about 18 to 22-year-old kids. So that's a whole nother thing, right? That's what this conversation, why we keep bringing it up. Still, I know we keep bringing it up because it's reality, right? DraftKings is everywhere. FanDuel.
Well, and if it's not
everywhere,
right, and to be clear, like if players are doing it, like those are things that the league, the Big 12, but it doesn't matter because guess who is? Their cousins, their family that are texting them every weekend.
By the way, that's a violation technically.
For inside information. Because I work with these kids from all the schools. All the people around them want the inside information. They're texting the coaches. They're texting me. They're texting. It's part of the game because gambling has gotten so big. So it's not unfair to bring it up. Again, if you're leveling like specific accusations, those are for the court, basically. But when it comes to the culture around sports, I actually think that we should be talking about the issues that gambling is causing because I think it's only going to get worse and worse and worse. But then again, that's just part of the conversation. When money is ruling, it sometimes can get out of hand. And that is, I think, perfect encapsulation of what is going on with college sports right now. And I think that we find a little bit of a landing zone when the NCAA figures some things out, when Congress gets involved. But yeah, I mean, when the literal mafia is running things in certain circles of the NBA, man.
Hey, by the way, running it steady for a couple years. They ain't for a couple weeks. They run it steady for a couple years, dude.
And since we're not in the Pac-12 anymore and we're not any partners, there's nothing there, I like to talk about when Woody Dixon, who was a business official with the Pac-12 conference, for some reason was on the replay headset, right? And was in the replay booth for the conference. Like, there are conflicts of interest that have been happening in sports that are illegal, but we just are, we brush them away because it makes them money. I think it's an issue, and I actually like that Kyle Whittingham, whether he is doing it for one reason, and that's a competitive advantage, but he's also unintentionally kind of saying, hey, Vegas, don't care.
Yeah,
and I
right.
personally don't hate that specific part of it, but hey, we'll get to the other side. We're going to get to predictions. We're going to get to our keys to the game on the Utah side, on the Cincinnati side. We'll get to James behind the glass for the lines for the game, see if they've moved throughout the afternoon, and we'll go from there. It is the Utes Game Day pregame show. I am Porter Larsen, Trevor Reilly there, Darrell Mack with us, and it is your home of the Utes for 70-plus years. It's ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM.
This is Utah quarterback Devin Dampier, and you're listening to Utah football on your home of the Utes, ESPN 700, 92.1 FM.
QB1, Devin Dampier bringing us back in on the Utes Game Day pregame show, the final segment of today's festivities before we hand it over to Bill Riley, Scott Mitchell, and Stevenson Sylvester for the call of the game. They will be live from the Smiths VIP tailgate up on the campus of the University of Utah, and we'll be here for the next 10 minutes giving you our predictions for the game, our keys to the game, and we'll hand the keys over to those guys up on the hill after that. 8:15, probably closer, if we're being honest, to 8:25 or so when it comes to kickoff. That's almost always the case with these late games, so we'll keep you posted there. The final availability report, which we just discussed in that last segment, will come your way, probably 30, 35 minutes or so from now. We'll keep an eye on that, and I'll send it out the second we see it. But for right now, it's down to business. It's number 17, Cincinnati, number 24, Utah, in what should be a Big 12 showdown with championship implications on the line. And as I intimated throughout much of the show, I truly believe that this is a matchup-based game that favors Utah in a major way. There is a reason that they are double-digit favorites against a top 20 team in college football, and that is because of the matchups. It's because of the availability for some of the players, and it is because what Vegas thinks is a poor matchup for Cincinnati is what I see on the field. A team that really can't stop the run. What they have on defense is I don't want to say soft front seven, but they give up a lot on first and second down, and then they kind of bend and don't break. They're decent in the red zone. Their backfield seems to make a decent amount of plays to make up for the front seven, and it just appears to me very clear the matchup that Utah will try to take advantage today, and that is with the run game. It is the number one rushing attack in Power 4 football against the bottom rushing defense in the Big 12. Trevor, that to me kind of tells the whole story of today, but what changes that? What could Cincinnati maybe do to throw a wrench in that? What maybe could you see from Utah that we're not expecting? Is there anything outside of what I just kind of laid out that you see happening outside of that tonight?
I'm always afraid of quick scores, early on in the game. If Utah gets behind with this offense, at least the history of it this year, that doesn't bode well for us. We're a team that we should play from ahead. So I'm concerned about maybe some freakish turnovers, muff punts again, or ball slips out, or we have a tip ball or something, and then all of a sudden we're down, 10, 14 points. And that's when you start, we might press a little bit, and then things can get exponentially worse. If we're not a throwing team, we got to throw a lot. You get what I'm coming at?
Right.
I don't want to see that happen. Same time, I also am not that worried about it. I think that we have the poise right now where we can handle something like that. That is the concern, though, with a team like this. They got a quarterback who can score at will.
And for me, that is the X factor, right? Is, as you've talked about, I do believe that Utah is going to be able to move the ball fairly at will on this defense. I think that Utah, if, as Trevor said, plays a clean game, no muff punts like we saw a couple weeks ago, limit the turnovers or at least win the turnover battle. If you have a turnover, you better create two.
Yeah, and also like the trick play battle.
Yeah.
Okay? Fake punt, block punt. We got to win those against teams like this, right? These are if they can go deep on us and they can score quick. If you're winning the trick play battle, you're winning the turnover battle. That's what we want, because you said earlier the rosters are not as good as ours. We match up well against that. We want to have a straight up game where it's me versus you, 1-on-1 basically, and we think we can win those matchups.
And the place where I do think Cincinnati can maybe close the gap is with, as Trevor said, a quarterback who is a playmaker.
We got to get the ball to 1. I'm going to say that again for the 9th week now. 1 is our best player on offense.
You want to see a lot of
Does anyone else want to hear that?
A lot
1
of
and 88
Parker.
are our best players on offense besides the tackles.
Can I make a prediction that I think will make you happy today?
13 ain't bad either. Go ahead.
I think Wayshawn Parker eclipses 100.
Okay.
Okay. I don't want to say touches because, if Utah is doing what I think they will, I think they're going to mix the touches up a lot.
Yep.
I think Wayshawn Parker eclipses 100. And I think Utah has at least 2 other players that also see the end zone on the ground.
I mean, that could happen, D. We haven't had that since Darrell Mack and Matt Asiata, right, D?
Yeah. Or we can have some
last
guys.
week. We had it last week.
There you go.
Yeah.
You just, you had to bring Colorado to town to see it.
Or all 3 of them get 100. That'd be nice.
There you go.
Who you like right now in the backfield? Who's your guy?
All those guys.
What about
man,
quarterback?
They're so
Who
fun
you like?
to watch. I mean, our vet guy, Damp, man, I love to watch that dude, man. I like how he just controls the offense, man. It's just, just seeing him out there, it's nice, man.
We didn't give you a in-depth update, but and we talked about, Kyle is keeping it close to vest. He is played at Coy all week long, not necessarily given insight into who the starting quarterback is, outside of saying that there's no quarterback controversy. If Devin's ready, he's going to play. Well, Devin's not on the injury report. He's not on the availability report. But despite playing or not seeing the field last week, it does sound like Devin Dampier took the majority of the first-team reps during practice this week. It does sound like he is good to go this week against Cincinnati. And from what I could gather last week, probably could have played if they needed.
Yeah, he could have played.
But
man.
Utah was, I think, confident in what they had going into the Colorado game.
That team wasn't ready for this. All right. Another thing I'm going to say is I think we'll see both. I would play both guys.
You will.
And I think
whether Bird Ficklin comes in as like in a quarterback role or not, like I don't necessarily think you're going to see him in the shotgun dropping back and making plays. But I do think that even if Devin Dampier starts and plays the full game, you're going to see Utah get Bird Ficklin involved the same way last week they got Nate Johnson, Daniel Bray, go down the list. I think Jason Beck's going to make a concerted effort to get a good contingent of Utes involved. But I do believe based on this matchup and based on the way Wayshawn Parker runs, Trevor's going to get his wish, and we're going to see a bunch of number 1.
I think 1 is the best player on the offense. This is every week I'm going to say it. Get him the rock, and we'll win the freaking game. That's what I think.
I don't necessarily disagree with you, Trevor, especially in a game against the Big 12's bottom rushing defense. Wayshawn Parker, 500-plus yards on the season. He's up to 503
What's he
right
rushing
now.
per carry, dude?
7.2.
What's his yards after contact?
Oof.
Look that up in the advanced stat. Look this dude up, man.
You're not wrong. He is he's been phenomenal. Wayshawn Parker. Again,
he did it at Wazoo. This is round 2.
He got a little timeout for dropping the ball a couple of times.
That's
but
all right. Hey,
I
man,
think you'll
that's
see
how you
a bunch
finish,
more.
right?
All right.
That's how you finish, baby.
Utah and Cincinnati, the Utes still, as we approach kickoff, 10.5-point favorites in this one. Trevor, I have made my point clear. I think Utah's going to cover, and I think they're going to win this game comfortably. The over-under is set at 58.5, which is pretty high for a Utah game. The spread is now moved. 11.5 points for Utah. I still think they're going to cover. What say you?
I say over in the Utes, and I think it's going to be a smorgasbord of rushes. You're going to see Jason
11.5
Beck
points too.
Take the points. Jason Beck's going to run an operation that's going to look like a clinic of how to run the football.
Darrell Mack?
I agree with that. I second that. It's going to be awesome. We're going to have all of our best offensive guys on the field. We're going to find a way today.
And I'm with you guys. I think that Cincinnati is a team that the onus is on them to keep up with Utah tonight. And I think Utah's rushing attack is up to the task. James Peterson behind the glass, the engineer for the program, of course, bringing you all the sound throughout the show. James, 58.5 points. Utah now 11.5-point favorites. The line keeps moving in their direction. Fair?
Yeah, I'm agreeing with all you guys. I'm going bold again. 42-14 Utes. It's going to be a huge blowout.
Woo! James Peterson picking the Utes. I'm going Utah.
I was the only one who predicted 3 scores over Colorado in this group.
Hey, and I was way
Feeling
wrong
good
on that
about
one.
that.
You were right, dude. I'm listening to you. You've seen more tape than the rest of us. Okay, I believe you.
I'm going Utah 42, and I'm going Cincinnati 17 on the afternoon. Utah gets the win, and they continue to stay alive in the Big 12 championship race, I do believe. That'll do it for the Utes Game Day pregame show. We appreciate you guys all for joining us. Brought to you by our friends at Outlaw Distillery, who are live up at the ESPN 700 VIP tailgate. Now, for Trevor, for Darrell, for Cousin Scott,
baby.
for James Peterson behind the glass, we're sending it up to the University of Utah. It's number 17 Cincinnati visiting the number 24 Utah Utes in a Big 12 showdown. Bill Riley, Scott Mitchell, Stevenson Sylvester have the call next here on ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM.